Cyclone MMA. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mason from Cyclone MMA, and welcome back to another video. I saw this graphic on Instagram the other day, and it was the UFC's worst nightmare. It's when MacLeod became the champion. He beat Alex Pereira at UFC 13. And I thought this would be like a fun exercise to go through every UFC division and find out what truly is the worst possible scenario for the UFC. Like which champions would be the worst. And this is an interesting lineup here. You got Umar, you got Movzar, you got Islam, you got Bilal, you got Hamzat, and you got Ankalaev. This is just like, if you have a beard, they don't like you. Pretty much. Movzar is able to get by without a beard. But this is interesting. I don't know if I even agree with this list. I think Umar's a fun fighter. He's also not the champion. Merab just beat him. Islam is a lot of fun every time he fights. Like, is he really being treated the way Khabib was treated? Khabib was like treated as if he was the most boring fighter to ever exist when he was champion. And as soon as he retired, I think everybody looked back and they're like, no, that guy was a lot of fun. He would smash people. He destroyed everyone he fought. Hamzat's on this list. That's crazy. One of the most entertaining fighters. The guy who always goes for a finish. Barely ever goes to a decision. He went to a decision with Kamaru Usman, who's one of the best to ever do it. Went to a decision with Gilbert Burns, who's pretty badass himself. So I don't know if I agree with this, but it's an interesting graphic. So I figured wrong button, Mason. Wrong button. There we go. We're going to get to the UFC rankings list here, and we're going to go through and try to find the worst possible champion in every division. Now, flyweight, flyweight's not the sexiest division in terms of names, but I was looking through this list, and it's like a lot of these guys I wouldn't mind if they're champion. Like Kai Kara France is kind of like the best case scenario. It's like him or Royval or Moreno. Pantoja, I think, is not a super loved champion, but his fights aren't boring. There aren't a lot of boring flyweight fights. So, like, I don't even remember what I decided on here. I think Asu Almabayev is probably, it's a guy with not a huge name. It's a guy who is kind of, not a ton of finishes. And, let's just look through his recent fights here. He beat Nicolau by decision. He beat Johnson by decision. He beat Vergara by decision. So 3 decisions in his 3 most recent fights. A guy without a huge, not a lot of name value. I think that's probably the guy. Nothing crazy here. Moving on to bantamweight. Merab is hated by a lot of people. I like Merab. I find Merab's style pretty fun. Just because, like, the cardio he implements is insane. I have a tough time understanding, like, what the perception of Merab is. Obviously a Sean O'Malley would be preferred as a champion, a guy who's a striker and knocks dudes out. But is there a more boring guy than Merab in this top 15? Dude, there's some action fighters here. The Umar in the graphic is weird to me because Umar, like, he throws some really interesting strikes. I feel like he has a lot of really fun fights. I think Merab's probably... No, okay. My bad, guys. My bad. I blanked. I did not see a name. Mario Batista is a champion that people would dislike more than Merab. If Merab and Mario Batista fought tomorrow, 95% of the fan base would root for Merab, and 5% of the fan base would happen to be related to Mario Bautista in some way. I think the fight he had with Jose Aldo really put a sour taste in people's mouths. And, you had him and Henry Cejudo going back and forth, but Henry Cejudo was just like, I'm not going to fight you, bro. You're boring. You're lower in the rankings, and you're boring. Whether or not he deserves all that criticism is a debate for another day. Jose Aldo's a dangerous guy, and Bautista needs to get that win to get in that top 10. So, I don't know. Featherweight, Aljamain Sterling's an option, but I think the guy who beat him is a better option. Movzar Evloev, who really is a guy who This is kind of the critique people had of Khabib. This one, you could say that about Movsar, and I think it's true. Really just uses a lot of control time. Really holds on to guys, uses his wrestling, and he's not super dangerous. He's not really submitting guys. He's not really beating them to a pulp. He's in that top 4 spot, so probably another win, and he gets a title shot. He low-key should get a title shot now, but I think Dana White isn't doing that simply because it would be unfortunate for the sport if Movsar Evloev becomes champion. Imagine him fighting Ilya and just like lays on him for 20 minutes of a 25-minute fight and becomes the champ. People would revolt. People would not be super happy about that. Now, on that graphic, Islam Makhachev was the champion. That is disappointing in the worst case scenario, apparently. But, like, no chance, dude. Islam's a blast to watch. The fights against Volkanovski, he smoked Charles Oliveira. He had a great war with Dustin Poirier. His fights are bangers. Like, you can't say that about him. Probably worst case scenario in this division is Justin Gaethje. Just really boring. Just kind of lays on. Now, Justin Gaethje is the man, obviously. Most boring fighter in the division. Worst champion. I don't know if it's Grant Dawson. I don't think it is. Mateusz Gamrot, maybe. But the thing is, in this lightweight division, dude, not a lot of boring people. Like, Gamrot's a guy who, like, goes for takedowns. But he's still got some of that, like, Merab cardio thing where he's just, like, shooting and shooting and shooting and scrambling and scrambling. Like, Beneil versus Gamrot, if you can match his level of grappling, it's a really fun fight. So, like, I don't know. I mean, Gamrot and Hooker, I feel like they had a really interesting fight. So it might be Gamrot, but it's like, that dude's not boring either. The dude's a lot of fun. Yeah, we're going Gamrot. He's the worst case scenario. And that's the thing at lightweight. Lightweight's so good that the worst case scenario is still pretty freaking good. Welterweight, I don't know if anyone's taking the cake from Belal Muhammad. And again, I like Belal Muhammad. I enjoy his fights. I thought him versus Leon was a cool fight. If it's not Belal Muhammad, it might be Sean Brady. Is it Colby Covington at this point? You know, Colby Covington's had some bangers. But no, it's not Colby Covington. It's not. As much as I'd like it to be, people would like that too. I think there's a small fan base out there that still likes Colby Covington. I mean, Ian Gary, people weren't too hyped about him recently, but I think when he fought Shavkat and performed as well as he did, I think he gained the respect of a lot of people. So yeah, dude, it's probably where we are. I think Belal Muhammad's probably worst case scenario. But I like him, so don't feel sad, Belal, okay? You're not my worst case scenario. My worst case scenario, I guess you are. Never mind, I take it back. Worst case scenario for middleweight. I don't know, Marvin Vettori. I mean, Anthony Hernandez is a guy who spams takedowns, but his wrestling's so fun to watch, and he really, like, punishes dudes. Roman Dolidze? No, it's Reiner de Ridder. He just joined the top 15. Reiner de Ridder, not that, like, I'm really coming off bad in this video. I'm coming off like a casual where it's like, wrestling bad. I'm just saying most UFC fans would prefer to see a striking battle compared to a wrestling battle. And Reiner de Ridder just, like, does not want to strike. He's a guy from a different promotion, doesn't have the biggest name. He's beaten a few guys that you like, and he's climbing that division. I feel like he's the guy who people don't want to see become champ. Because, like, a lot of these other guys, it'd be cool. If Whitaker became champ again, Izzy became champ again. Hamzat was on that graphic. I think a lot of people want to see Hamzat become the champion. All right, light heavyweight, a division with no grapplers, so we got to go based off, like, name and vibes. I think it's Jamal Hill, dude. I'll be real. Jamal Hill's a very exciting fighter. He's coming off a 2-fight losing streak, so I don't see him being a champion necessarily anytime soon. Got slept in both of those fights, too. But Jamal Hill has this, like, hate club after, you know, he kind of made some excuses after the Pereira fight, and he was talking shit to Yuri and got knocked out by Yuri, and I think he's been humbled since then. But but he's potential for worst case scenario champion just because I think, again, like some other fighters on this list, he put a bad taste in people's mouth. I think people, I think Jamal Hill's stock has gone down quite a bit. So that's my answer. Alternative answer is Anthony Smith, a guy who talks a lot of shit about a lot of people. And I like Anthony Smith, but he has some really weird takes. He was like, John Jones isn't that good. What the fuck do you mean by that? Because he's the greatest fighter of all time. Is there not a good fighter on the planet? Does everybody suck? He's like, if you look at his individual skills, he's not that good. But if the way he mixes them together is good, and it's like, brother, it's mixed martial arts. What are we talking about, babe? Yeah, so probably I'm going Jamal Hill. There's a weird story with Anthony Smith where it'd kind of be cool to see him become champion after like the amount of L's he's taken. But heavyweight, worst champion is John Jones because the dude doesn't fight Tom Aspinall. No, okay, no, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of like whatever names in this division that like no one really gives a shit about. Like Marcin Tybura, like if that's our champion, it's like, wow, what the fuck happened? But I think the answer is Jailton Almeida, because this is the Mozart Evloev of the heavyweight division. The dude just like, he just lays on people. I mean, he got a knockout in his recent fight. His fight against Sergey Spivak was pretty banger. I'll be real about that. But like, I will say when he fought Curtis Blades, I was like, please, Curtis, please knock him out. Because Curtis Blades is a wrestler, but that dude throws bombs. And when Jailton Almeida tried taking him down and just basically like held his leg and just stayed there, Curtis just like hammer-fisted him to a different dimension. Jailton Almeida is the answer. It'd be really depressing if Tom Aspinall becomes undisputed champ, has a defense against Jailton Almeida, and then just gets laid on and loses. That would be big sad. Big sad. Women's strawweight, worst case scenario. I don't know, man. I was looking at it and I was like, is it Jillian Robertson? And it's like, dude, fun fact. I looked up Jillian Robertson to look into her a bit and see some of her fights. Rather than call her a fighter, like Google said she was an internet personality, which is so brutal. I don't think it's Jillian Robertson. She has a lot of decisions, but she goes for it. She has a lot of output. Maybe Verna Jandiroba, someone who's knocking on the door of a title shot. If I had to pick, probably going with her. Kind of tough in this division. It's tough. Like, I try picking people who are either hated or have a ton of decisions. And a lot of women's MMA fights end in decisions. But I don't think there's a ton of like hated women's fights, other than those like incels who are like, women's fights are boring, and anytime a women's fight comes on, I mute the TV and I flip it the other way so I don't have to look at, like, that's crazy to me. Some of the women's MMA fights are some of the best fights in the UFC. I stand by that. Feminism or whatever. I don't know. Women's flyweight. What do we got here? Dude, again, like, I don't know. Like, I like Miranda Maverick. It might be her. I think she's super fun to watch. Like, I might just have to go Amanda Maverick. Honestly, this division's coming a long way. So I'm going to see Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot in Montreal. It's the first UFC event I'm going to ever. So that's cool. I'm excited for that. I like Mayra Bueno Silva. She almost became a champ, not of this division. We're moving on. We're just gonna say Miranda Maverick, and like, there's not a good answer for this division. Natalia Silva. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. Women's bantamweight. You might have it right now. Do people like Juliana Pena? I don't think people love Juliana Pena. I thought she actually lost her last fight. No. The worst case scenario is Raquel Pennington. The worst case scenario is the former champ. I think it was like, a fighter who got smashed by the previous champ and then fought Juliana. Everyone thought Pennington won, and then Juliana takes the belt. Pennington, not the most, sexy fighting style. I think she deserves to be champion right now. But unfortunately, she might be the one who who would be the worst case scenario. Because I feel like for the UFC at least, Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena, sick matchup. Sick matchup. Not necessarily even the fight, but more of the shit talk beforehand. So, Raquel Pennington. That's the answer. I'm having like a heart attack over here. I don't know what's going on. All right, guys. We fucking did it. These are the worst case scenario champions. Let me know what you agree with and what you disagree with in the comment section below. Who are the worst possible champions in your eyes? Just for fun, I'm going to go through right now and I'm going to pick the worst champion around right now. The most boring champion. The one when their fight comes on, it's like, of this top row, it's like probably Merab or Pantoja. Because Merab like has big fights in the division. Here it's Bilal. Sorry, Bilal. Here it's Shevchenko. Or, yeah, Shevchenko. And then Juliana Pena. It might be Juliana Pena. I think she might be the worst champion currently. Because she doesn't even seem like she should have the belt. Also, I just realized Magomed Ankalaev has not been replaced. Or Alex Pereira has not been replaced for Magomed Ankalaev. And did I choose Anthony Smith or Jamal Hill? The answer might be actually Magomed Ankalaev. This video is running too long. I'm going to go. Hope you enjoyed this video. Peace out. Love you. Goodbye. Leave a like.